if I'm thinking about how best to use artificial intelligence, a lot of times, Dennis, people tell me that they only know how to use it one way. And that's really not the most effective mechanism or the approach to get the best out of AI.
Yeah, I mean, it's evolving, and I think, we're all learning and, and there's small little pieces that do great things, but when you put them together, it's even more powerful. And I think we're finding that it's not just ChatGPT, but there's different things and tools out there that you can create with partners that help you bring it to life that make life easier for you. And today we're going to be talking about how to kind of make that recipe work for you and your organization the best way.
Travis Ziebro is the founder of a company that has done some really interesting things. And what he has been able to do is not just take, say, one aspect of AI and that's it. He's developed a system to be able to tackle this from different tools and having the ability to verticalize a lot of the actions of what AI do has really resulted in a lot of success for his marketing company. Momenta Tech is really got an interesting approach. And Travis kind of breaks it down in terms of what we should be doing and how we should be tackling some of the approaches to AI and in marketing for his specialties. Let's take a listen.
WFH with two guys. Now here's Benny and Dennis.
Hey, Dennis, with it being a new year in 2026 now, we've kind of come to a point in time where a lot of the things with artificial intelligence and the way that we use AI has matured a little bit. We're still, I believe, kind of like in the beginning stages of this, and there's a lot more for us to do. But I get a lot of questions about AI, and I think you do too now that you've become a real good expert at this. You're getting a
Yeah.
lot of people who are asking, well, I use ChatGPT and I just put the little question in there and they spits out an answer. Okay, then I go on my way. But that's really not the best way to get full use of AI nowadays.
No, think of it like you're making cookies and it's like you've got to put flour in and sugar and chocolate chips and all this other stuff, and out comes this great product. We're finding that if you can find two, three, four, five different AI tools that complement one another and work together, the outcome is just amazing what you get and how it works. And the key is you've got to have a strategy. You've got to think through what that process is, what you're doing. A lot of people we come in contact with, they just want it to happen. Well, it just
Yeah.
doesn't magically happen. You've got to kind of think through it and then find those people that have either developed these AI tools or go out and find them to put these things together to create this recipe that really works for your business.
Yeah. And so having said that, we have to have an expert come in and tell us how to do this. So Travis, thanks for coming in. We appreciate it.
Benny, Dennis, good to see you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, Travis.
Yeah. So one of the things that, Dennis and I had talked about is, we will talk about different tools and we'll talk about ways about being able to really get the most out of AI, but it's really not just one thing because people ask me all the time, hey, what's the one service that you use? Or what's the one flavor of AI that works best? There's, obviously there's ChatGPT, there's Anthropic, Claude, Gemini. Should I just pick one, or should I use? What's the way you look at this, Travis? I think you've become you're like a scholar when it comes to AI and understanding how to best get the best use of these tools. What's your approach when it comes to AI?
Well, you ask the right questions, you get the right answers, right? And so a lot of times people start with the wrong question. What is the best AI? And no different than what is the best ERP? What is the best accounting system? Well, what are you trying to do? And so I always recommend, well before AI was all anyone talked about, which it feels like is start with what's the best tech stack for my business at this particular point in time. And that way you'll get tools that are thoughtfully made and fit your business and the way of doing business the best possible way.
Yeah. And as you look at it, it's one where you've got to have that strategy. You hit it on the head. You've got to kind of lay out, you can't just jump in. It's like going to buy a car. If you're going to go buy, there's all kinds of cars you can buy. You got to know what your budget is. You got to know, how are you going to be driving this? Are you going to be driving in town or are you going to be doing long drives? Because you may want something that gets better gas mileage if you're driving across country versus if you're just driving around town a few days a week. Do you buy a used one? Do you buy a new one? It applies also to the tech stack and the AI that we do. And so many people it's kind of like the squirrel. It's like wherever people are jingling the bell, they all run over there. And it's like, stop, think about what you're trying to solve for. What is the issue that you're experiencing? And then from there, how do you put it together to come to life? And that's how Travis and I got to experience something recently that we're working on that is just, to me, it's a game changer.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Travis, I know that your expertise and you come from a really interesting background, and you've kind of dipped your toe in a lot of different areas, mechanical engineering, project management. I know you've DJ'd in the past too as well. My goodness, but you have an expertise in marketing, which I think is really fascinating. Can you talk a little bit about how are you using AI when it comes to marketing? And I know that part of like your focus is this isn't for big companies necessarily that you want to focus in on. These are companies that Dennis and I run, and even, smaller companies in some capacity. But can you talk a little bit about that in maybe your approach with marketing in artificial intelligence?
Yeah, certainly. So, marketing, particularly in stodgier, slower moving industries like B2B, it's best thought of as a sales enablement tool. It's less on the
Mm.
hype, it's less on the imagery, it's more about building trust. And so, the ways that we've specifically used that is be able to propagate a client's voice with custom GPTs a lot easier than trying to make assumptions. Now, of course, there's definitely fatigue over some of the characteristics that come with GPT and things of that nature. But it's really looking at the entire way that we're able to glean information from clients. Myself, I got my start as a marketing agency with a really heavy reliance on SEO. And people will say, oh, SEO's died. And that's not the case, but it definitely,
Mm.
the game has changed. The days of pumping out articles over and over again and getting your products to rank up, those are gone. And so what I see as a real value add is using AI in ways to capture a more authentic voice. And so then what you're able to do as a marketing firm or as a company itself, putting the message out there in ways that are more humanizing, where you can have a recorded conversation and you're able to glean notes and do your research quicker. And ultimately that end product becomes almost more human than the circa 2021, like heavy keyword stuffing articles that propagated all across the internet.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, you actually bring up a good point, Travis, because one of the things wasn't it, Dennis, the word of the year last year was slop. Is that what it is? And you
Mhm.
hear about AI slop, right? And so it's interesting. I mean, we're really having to like you said, the days of search aren't necessarily over, but the game has changed, and we need to be able to adapt to that type of environment.
Yeah, and my experience with Travis, they have a company called Convoy Sage. So for me, as a business owner, I was trying to figure out were people actually hitting our website, and he has a tool that helps you kind of look to see who hits it, more information about that person, and what do they do on your website, which was an eye opener because in our case, it's Works, WRX. Well, there's also a tool outside, a hand tool called Works. Well, we found that a lot of people were hitting our website that were trying to find the power tool, not the workflow tool that we had. It helped us kind of understand, okay, how do we focus and what do we need to do with those different types of connections that happen? That was the first step, and we found that there were a lot of people hitting our website, but not a lot of results were happening because a lot of it was just busyness or slop, as you kind of hit. And this is where adding other pieces come in. And so there's a tool out there that we're working with now that takes and looks at criteria that we've set that we think are people that would be interested in our product. And it's able then to look at, in the last 2 weeks, have they searched that word? And it comes back with, let's say I say CRM, and it comes back, and I'm looking at in the state of Tennessee. It came back with a list of 45 people. Well, instead of sending a message out to 10,000 people, now I can target market to 45 people because I know that they've done something about CRMs in their searches, and I can tailor that message to them. And I can even tailor the message specific to them, not to 45 people, but to each person. And then with Travis's tool, I can see, do they actually hit the website? So there's number two. And then number three is that I could have some kind of bot that, based off of what they do or where they go, it starts that communication, either verbal or email or texting or whatever, to them. And at some point, then here's the important part, a human gets involved, because in that process, we know that, okay, now we want the human to be involved because we can't replicate it with AI. And so we've got 3 or 4 different AI tools working together to solve a problem that was kind of never really being solved. And we were just throwing lots of stuff at things, and people were busy trying to reach out, but we weren't getting any results. And I think this, to me, it's a game changer of how you can use 3 or 4 tools together to solve a problem.
Absolutely. So and you saw this a little bit with cold email. I did a lot of that early on, and a lot of the spray and pray kind of approach where you take this list and you boil it in and send 50 emails from 10 different inboxes every day, and then eventually maybe someone says yes because they're so fatigued that you're pounding them, and so
Exactly.
there's better ways, right? And so it may feel intrusive. It may feel somewhat like, hey, like, how did you hear about my information or things of that nature do come up. So just being wise and prudent, like those of us who are kind of in those marketing seats of like how you target, when you target, being thoughtful to not just blast away everything and then hopefully something falls. Now you're having a more coherent conversation, whether that's done through the AI intel that you've been able to grasp from that potential prospect. So it's a different game, and in a lot of ways, I think it's pretty exciting that it's a more nuanced, more thoughtful approach.
Yeah, I mean, because and we're experiencing the people we're reaching out to. They're like, "Yeah, we didn't even know about you, but yeah, we'd really like to talk to you." And
Right.
so, it's not being viewed as this AI search thing. It's viewed as, "Hey, you guys are actually trying to help me solve a problem that I was searching anyhow, and I need to figure out how to make things better, and maybe you can help me."
Absolutely. So pretty exciting.
And I think this is exactly what we're seeing here for a number of people who are sitting back and hesitant to really kind of embrace new technologies and just different ways of doing things, because the way that it was working for me 10 years ago is working okay today or whatever. Everything's becoming more sophisticated. And just because we want to or have had success in a way that worked before, if you're talking to marketing folks who aren't looking down the road and seeing what's happening, you're kind of in a little bit of trouble here. I think that's something that we really should be, if not adopting AI, because I know some people are still hesitant, but they should be at least considering how to use it or hiring a company to be able to do the AI for you if you don't want to do it.
Well, and it's so important, Travis hit it on, is make sure you understand what it is you're trying to solve for. Don't just go get AI for the sake of
Right.
it.
Mm.
And then, document your process. What are you how are you doing it today? Where do you want human intervention? Where don't you where do you have human intervention you wish you could automate? And then think about, okay, what are the tools out there? And because again, and then what's your budget? Because there's some that are, not expensive, but there's some that can hit you pretty hard if you're not careful. So it's like, and then, one of our podcasts we've had on before is KPIs. Make sure you got measurements that are looking at this thing. Don't be doing this thing 6 months from now and not getting any results. This is kind of things that within 2 to 3 months, you ought to see things happening and the needle beginning to move. And if not, it doesn't mean to throw the whole thing out. It's like a cookie mix. Maybe it just didn't taste quite right. I need to add some more sugar, or maybe I need to add some more chocolate chips or whatever. Or I need to add icing to the top to finish it off. That's the way to kind of think of this as a recipe working. And then you'll find that sweet spot that works great for you, and then take it and run with it.
Yeah, and I think that's a great approach for everyone out there, whether it's software that you're building, a career you're starting, a business you're doing, is really just the cookie batter. Hey, let's add a little bit more sugar. Let's add some different elements to the mix, and then you'll really see how things pan out. Because the truth is we're all in this boat together where AI is storming into the beaches, and we're like, okay, what do we do with this now? The experts are basically the faster zebras in the herd, so to speak.
Mm.
We're all trying to figure out exactly how this plays in and changes workflows while empowering employees in a new way that wasn't possible. So it's a very exciting time to be in business.
And I'm using the cookie recipe thing because last night my wife was making cookies and she burned them. And so it was one that we left. The KPI was we forgot to tell Alexa a 20-minute timer, and 30 minutes later, I'm like, I think those cookies are burning. So
There you go.
So make sure you have those KPIs in place even when you really do make cookies.
So, Travis, let me ask, and gosh, you guys with your recipe analogies, I'm getting hungry here. So, Where do people start? I'm a guy. I'm running a small manufacturing firm or a service firm, and I need marketing, and I've been approached by different marketing folks, but the packages they are offering, yeah, hey, it sounds great for an enterprise, or sounds great for a company that's maybe 10 times my size, but I really swing that. I can't afford that, or maybe I need to. I just don't need quite that level of marketing. Where do I start? What
Yeah.
should I do to kind of get this whole thing going?
So in software, we talk a lot about minimum viable product. So what that looks like when you're introducing a new process is not jumping completely into the deep end. Doing something small, measurable, running a small experiment is what I call that, where I think most manufacturers still don't record their meetings. That is one of the simplest ROIs you can do is having a tool like Fireflies or Phantom or many of the others that takes that recording and turns it into tangible notes and action items. And then there's ways that you can automate that through other processes like Make and Zapier. So that's a great spot to start is with the smaller SaaS type products. Like if you're trying to go full scale implementation and treat this like it's a 1997 software installation, by the time everything's installed, you're going to be behind the curve anyway.
You know,
Yeah.
the other one too is, I mean, reach out to people that you know that are kind of AI experts. So Benny,
Yeah.
Travis, myself, others like that, and just ask for a coffee meeting just to kind of brainstorm of, hey, here's my problem.
Yeah.
What's out there? Because a lot of the listeners and a lot of the clients that we work with, they don't even have a clue. They've heard of AI, but they don't know where to go. And you got to be careful because some of them, the marketing side, they're good marketers from the old day, but if they're not into the AI piece, they can have you spend a lot of money making all kinds of neat websites and doing all this stuff. But if it's not tied and there's not a strategy and a process together, you're going to spend a bunch of money. Again, it's kind of like buying a car. Do your research, find some trusted advisors that you can turn to, and then to Travis's point, just do something small. You don't not have to eat the whole elephant at once.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, if I'm taking this first step and I'm going to do this, then uh, to go and find that second piece. It seems to me, and Travis, you tell me if I'm on the right track. At least I've kind of made that first step. I can learn what's working, what's not working. Maybe some pieces that need to be automated, or if there's some elements within this that maybe the tool that I'm using today isn't quite fulfilling, then I need to figure out and ask the question, hey, is there a tool that exists today that can help me with that? Or is there an automation that can be put in place that can help me get to that next level? Is that an approach that sounds right?
Absolutely. So, some of the things that Dennis has been talking about are kind of these small pieces coming together to create something that's greater than the whole of its parts. In software, a lot of times we talk about microservice infrastructure, meaning that you have various small pieces that then come together. And the reason that, or to produce a finished product, and the reason that that kind of architecture is favored is it's easier to remove pieces, to add pieces. And in today's modern age, with all the new AI tools coming out, you can almost buy way too many if you're not careful. Have 10 or
Yeah.
15 of them, and you're like, do
Oh,
all
yeah.
these work together? But the beauty of that is it's easy to cancel that subscription. It's easy to
Mhm.
plug and play and try something different or build things in house or iterate in a way that wasn't possible. So every quarter, I would encourage folks to take a look at their processes and look at the AI landscape or have a trusted advisor like one of you gentlemen or myself or whoever it may be that can
Mhm.
kind of be in your ear and be like, yeah, maybe not that, maybe this. The iterative process is very rewarding, particular as it pertains to AI optimization.
The other piece that I would say on the back end, develop a log of what are all the different microservices or pieces that you're doing, because we come across this a lot where they have, I've got all this stuff, but I don't know where it's at or what it does. Have a list of, the name of it, when you got it, why you got it, and what it's doing for you. And just keep that because to Travis's point, then quarterly look at that because things are changing and you may be paying, make it up, $20 a month for something that you're not even using anymore. And so you can save some money as you go through this process and just document all that stuff. It always sounds, oh God, I don't want to document, but it does make life easier on the back end if you'll keep track of all this stuff.
Right. Absolutely.
And you know what? Also, it occurs to me as well too. Some of the things that we're doing here, and Travis, hopefully you agree with me on this part. But a lot of the business owners that I talk to, that I know, ultimately there's an exit that they want to
Right.
establish, they want to attain. And a lot of times in smaller businesses, especially, I've seen this in engineering firms and law firms and whatnot. They are the business, right? They have the knowledge. They have the wherewithal to be able to do it. If we're using and developing systems and tools, that actually increases the value of our company. Because if we're using this particular product, well, it's not what was in Dennis's head that was the reason why this company was as successful as it was. It's in part due to the systems. And because it's not Dennis in particular, I can't buy Dennis, but I can buy the system. So that seems to me it's all part of the equation here.
You're absolutely right. And sometimes, along the lines of searching for different tools, sometimes we can spend too much time in that searching and optimization process because, to your point, you want to make the business about the way it delivers goods or services rather than yourself delivering the good or service. And, as an example, one of the things we did at my firm is we went through and it was heavily Firefly and GPT enabled. We went through and defined all the policies and procedures, all the tools that we used. This is a task that probably would have taken and wrote it all out, put it on a site that's where only employees can access it. This is a process that would have taken 200 man hours just
Mm.
probably 2 or 3 years ago, right? And now it probably took about 15 hours, right? So massive time difference. So I encourage folks in the manufacturing space or well beyond it, like think about what that means for your business and some of these ways of doing business. You may think in your head like, oh, it's going to take 50 hours to do that, and the reality is technology will drive that down significantly.
Well, like I said, Travis, there are probably 5 or 6 more questions at least, or topics within this area that I'd love to be able to talk more about. So, but as usual, we have to make sure we kind of stay within the boundaries here. But I know there are going to be some folks out there who are going to have some questions. They will have some things that they need to talk about. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so the one and only Travis Ziebro, as far as I know in the world. So you can look me up on LinkedIn or my company Momenta Tech. That's Momenta Tech. Travis at momentatech.com. Drop me a line. Love to talk to you about how you're using technology and help you out however I can. So thanks for having us on the show, having me on the show.
Travis, you
Travis, it
bet.
was great. Thank you. Thanks for being here. This is a great conversation.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
You've been listening to WFH with Two Guys. We'll see you next time.